Hello and welcome to BigMarker. My name is Hannah and I'm going to be taking you through the software today, so thank you for joining me. I'm going to be taking us through three main steps today. The first is the host dashboard. The next part of the puzzle will be the BigMarker channel. And then we'll actually schedule our own event and then enter it and see how the hosting experience works. So let's start off with the host control panel. As you can see, I'm logged into my account. I know I'm logged in because I can see myself here in the corner, or if I didn't have a picture already uploaded, then it would just show my initial. But this is my landing page on BigMarker. It's kind of my home base. And from here, I can do a lot of cool things. I can invite my team members, so having people co-manage my channel, which we'll get to in a little bit of what that means. Launch a demo conference, which is great for practicing, and then even just scheduling an event on BigMarker, so a webinar, a workshop, a meeting, whatever you're planning to do, you can do so here on the dashboard, either in this button here or at the top. Pretty much on any page on BigMarker, you'll see this green schedule button. On the dashboard, you'll also notice that all of your scheduled events will be listed. You can enter them strictly through here, or you can go ahead and go into your channel to enter the webinar as well. Also, all of your past events will be listed here as well. In addition, you have the 24/7 room that you can set up at any time, which is your meeting room that's always open. So it's a great tool for like drop-in office hours, or if you just want to do a quick meeting. So this is the, like I said, home base of BigMarker. The next step that I really wanted to take you through is the BigMarker channel. And your channel, you'll notice, is listed here in this panel to the side. You'll notice that I'm actually a member of multiple channels, but most people are just kind of a member of just the one. The channel is essentially, and I'll pull up a great example of a channel here, this webinar success channel. The channel is essentially your company or organization's hub for all of your webinar hosting. So it's essentially the account, the overarching account that you're hosting your webinars through. And like I said before, you can actually invite your team, so coworkers, colleagues, etc., who would be also, helping with your webinar and web hosting endeavors. That you can invite them to co-manage the channel, so that kind of similar to a Facebook like feel of, a company account or what have you. You have this kind of centric area for all of your webinar needs. So the first is the bulletin area, and the bulletin is where you can post content out to your subscribers, and subscribers being those who actually attended your webinars. If you don't want to build a subscriber list, you don't have to. You can always manage that in your settings, but a great way to kind of get engagement between webinars and so on and so forth is through the subscription model of the BigMarker channel. Then we have the calendar view, which is very similar to just pretty much any other calendar out there, Outlook or Google. All of your webinars and web events will be listed out in addition to any other events that you schedule on BigMarker. And then we have the webinars page, and this is where it gets really interesting. So as you saw on the host dashboard that we were previously looking at, I mentioned that your webinars would also be listed in your channel. And not only are your upcoming webinars listed out, so as you can see, this channel has 2 webinars coming up, but all of their past content, so past webinars that they've already held, they've recorded, all of them are going to be stored here on this webinars page in their channel. So even if you wanted to just send this link out to people to be able to just view all of your recordings at once, you can do so here. Or, as you can see, all of these kind of conference cards are listed out here in a grid view, but if you clicked on one, it would take you to the actual page for the webinar. As an admin, I would actually log in and see my Promote Manage section, but as an attendee or somebody who's not an admin of the channel, you would come and be able to just view the recording. And the nice thing about this is that the recording actually lives on the same page that you created for the webinar. So the link never changes. You can always share the link throughout the process, and people can come and watch your recording. So as I'm kind of showing you here this really nice landing page, I'll show you in a second how to actually create your own. But let's quickly go back to the channel now and check out a few last things before we move on. So in addition to the webinars page, as I was mentioning, the subscribers before, you have this subscriber list that, again, using the Facebook reference is very similar to, your Facebook friends or connections on LinkedIn or something like that. So, you build up this subscriber list and then you're able to connect with them. You can send messages, you can email them. It's a great way to stay in contact between webinars. And then finally, like I said, you can manage all of your settings in, your channel settings in the settings portion. And then in the about section, it's just almost like a home page for your channel. So it has this nice branding. At the top, you can provide an about section, so on and so forth. So again, just to recap really quickly before we move on, we've just already covered the host dashboard, which again is your kind of landing page. This is where all of your kind of events will land, but then in the channel that we've covered, this is your company or organization's kind of overarching account for your webinar hosting. So again, you're hosting your webinars through the channel so that you can build up an archive on the channel and all of your webinar hosting needs will be in one place. So the next step is obviously creating your own online events. And to do this, as I mentioned before, there's a few ways to do it, but this green schedule button is always a safe bet to do it. So you can go ahead and press that. And a little modal will pop up asking you to fill out some very basic information, title, event type. So if you wanted to do, a class or a presentation or call it whatever you like, then the information doesn't really change that you fill out. It just, makes the name different on the page, which is helpful for your audience. Then you can decide a few privacy settings. You'll be able to augment those further a little bit down the road. But then also, in addition, you can schedule out the date, time, and duration, and fill out a few more key details. Once you've filled out this very basic form, you can hit schedule. And I've already actually gone ahead and created a webinar, and I'm going to take us first to the live page to kind of explain the inner workings of the actual BigMarker landing page. So each landing page is its own home for the webinar. So you'll see here I've made a demo example. That's the title. Date, duration, and time is listed out at the top. There would be a countdown clock if it weren't happening already, and a prompt to register. But since this webinar is going to be happening now, this is the button at the top that says Enter Webinar. So both you and your attendees can enter from this page. You'll notice I've included a few brief details about the webinar. We definitely highly recommend that you do this. It helps registration rates and helps people learn a little bit more about your events. So you can fill out an about section, give some agenda topics, the basic details of your webinar, and even featured presenter lists and the channel that it's hosted out of. So again, the live page is where people come to register for the event. If it's already happening or it's happening now, they can come to enter the event. And then again, when it's recorded, the recording will live here. It will just replace this banner image. So as an admin, I have access to my edit page, design page, and promote and manage page. And these are the three key pages to make edits or change details of your webinar. So let's start with the edit page. And the edit page allows you to really edit the details of your webinar, meaning, if you wanted to change your title or change the time or add an about section, you can do all of this with the edit page. Another key thing to mention is you can add presenters from this page. So you can obviously add new presenters here, or if you had other channel members. So if you think back to the host dashboard, when I said invite your team, you could actually just do a one-click, really easy add to team members if they're co-hosting with you. So it's super easy to do that. Another thing you can do on BigMarker is sell tickets. Each webinar will auto-select to no tickets, but you can always select paid tickets. And if you don't have a pro plan, you can upgrade. Or if you do have one, then you'll be able to select your ticket prices there. The third option being you can obviously add a donation, meaning that the webinar would remain free, but they would be prompted to donate to your cause. Then finally, the thing that I wanted to really get to, really delve into, is the privacy section. And the privacy section is great for people who are really interested in keeping their webinars private. So you do have the option here to list your your webinars publicly, meaning that they're searchable on BigMarker. You can find them. They might even be featured on our homepage if they're popular. Or private. So private meaning that you can choose all of these advanced privacy settings to essentially lock down your webinar and make sure only the people who you want to attend can attend. So things like only those with a password, only those who are sent a BigMarker invitation, so on and so forth. And then there's just a few more privacy settings that are a good idea to look through when you're scheduling out your webinar, including the recording permissions. Do you want everyone to be able to view it, or do you want to limit that access? So kind of going through a very brief overview of Edit, we definitely recommend that you kind of check everything out for yourselves, but what I think is that everything else listed here is pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to go ahead, save my changes. It's going to actually bring me to the Promote and Manage page, but before I go to the Promote and Manage page, I'm going to quickly do a backpedal here and go to the Design page. So on the Design page of BigMarker, this is where you make all of your images or graphics for this specific page. So as you can see here, I've added this background, or we call it a cover photo image. You can add your own, or as you can see here, we have some stock photos available. So I've just used one of the stock photos, but you can always use your own. Also, we have a logo photo here that you can also use. You don't have to by any means, but it does look nice when people are coming to register. It kind of puts your logo in the forefront. Next, we have the event preview card. And if you remember back to the webinar success channel, all of these nice images in the grid view of the webinars page, that's what your preview card is going to be. So we do have some stock photos available for those as well, but if you'd like to make a personalized image and really make your webinar look nice, especially on your channel, you'll want to make a preview card image just to add, more robust value to your webinar page. Finally, a really, really cool feature in BigMarker. Again, if you don't have a pro account, this is something that is a pro feature. Is adding your logo to the conference room. So you'll notice the BigMarker B when we enter the live webinar will be up in the top left-hand corner of the screen. But if you wanted to change it to your own logo, you can absolutely do that. It's simple, just image add, and then you can also change the theme color as well, meaning that if you wanted to change this top banner color, you can put in your own hex code, or we have some other colors available if you just wanted to use one of ours. So again, that is the design section. It's pretty straightforward, again, similar to the edit section, but it's nice to go through. Finally, we have the promote and manage section, and this is probably the most robust of all of the three editing tools on BigMarker. And Promote and Manage, this is where all of your marketing, analytical, and promotional tools are going to be located. So things like copying your webinar, a great way to host recurring webinars is to create a template and then copy them. On your dashboard, you'll also notice you can send email invitations. It's super easy to do. You just click here. The message is standard, but you can always change it if you'd like. Also in the To section, you can either copy and paste, or you can use the contact importer to import a contact list, either CSV, Excel, or from your email. And then you'll have those lists to be able to send out invitations. And with the invitations, it actually sends reminder emails. You don't have to do anything. It's very hands-free. Once you send them, your attendees or potential registrants are going to have enough information to be able to enter the webinar and get reminder emails as well. Going quickly back to the dashboard, you'll notice a few more things. So things like we have embeddable widgets. So you can actually embed your registration widget on your own website, which is cool. You can also embed your live event and your recording, which is a great way to spread the word. Another thing to spread the word, you get a shareable webinar URL. So if you wanted to share it with other people, you can just copy it and send it wherever you'd like. And then just a few more helpful details and analytics follow in the dashboard of your webinar page. A few more things I wanted to get to, since I mentioned that this is the most robust section of the webinar, is a lot of really cool analytical tools. So things like managing your event registration. So when people come to register on BigMarker, you can not only see who's registered, but if you needed to unregister anyone, you could do so there. And you can also see where the registrations are coming from, especially if you attribute a link on the link. You can do an attribution to see where they're actually coming from. And you can also manage your invite list, which is really great. So you can see who's actually clicked on your invitation, who's opened it, so on and so forth. And you can actually see that conversion rate as well. So what percentage of people, have converted. This is also the place where you would preload your files and videos. So if you wanted to, for example, preload a slideshow or video, as you can see, I've done so here. You can decide if you want to upload them now or in the room. You can always do it live on the fly. But the nice thing about preloading is you can just kind of upload it and forget about it. And another cool feature is that we do have autoplay. So if you do select autoplay, you can decide, what do I want to have on autoplay? Maybe I want to have this demo slideshow show up when the webinar starts, or if I want the video that I've uploaded to start playing at the start of the webinar, automatically without me even having to do anything, I can autoplay that as well. So that's a really cool feature on BigMarker that really helps, with the webinar setup process and makes everything very easy. We also have our integrations here. If you don't have MailChimp, HubSpot, or want to use Google Analytics, we do have Zapier integrations as well, so you can integrate with pretty much any platform. It's just a third-party service that connects the integration with BigMarker. And then finally, we have some cool pro features here. You can email your attendees, which is a little bit different from actually sending invitations, because it's just an email sender rather than sending the actual invitation. You can also create custom registration fields. Sorry, I'm a little zoomed in here. Let me zoom out. Again, a pro plan feature, but what's really cool about the custom registration fields is that you can gather more information than just full name and email address when you are actually having people register for your webinar. So if you want to ask their occupation, their place of work, whatever you want to ask, you can add those fields, and then when they register, it's going to gather all of that data for you, and it's available for download after the webinar. Finally, once your recording has posted, it does post as we saw on the actual webinar landing page, but if you wanted to have that download for yourself to upload anywhere else, such as upload on YouTube or something like that, you can download your recording as well. So we've gone through the edit, design, and promote and manage fields. I think the next best step is to actually go into the live webinar and play around a little bit. So as you can see, it's ready for me to enter. As a host, I can actually enter an hour before the start of my webinar. If I'm an attendee, you as the host can decide if attendees can enter 15 or 30 minutes prior to the event. Just in your edit settings, in your advanced settings, you can change that. So once I go into enter webinar, it's going to bring up a little test your audio and video screen. And this is where if I have any external devices, so today I'm using an external microphone, or if I had an external webcam, I could, if those were plugged in, I could select those now. So as you can see here, I have this Microsoft Live Chat that I'm using today that I could select at this time. I could also just test out my microphone, make sure it's working. I see that the audio bar is recognizing it, so I know that it's good to go. I could also test out my webcam. Hello, hello. See myself, make sure it's looking good. If I turn that off, it's going to just continue to event. If I kept it on, it would actually show up here in this presentation screen. But what I wanted to do before we did that is kind of go through the four main basic parts of the webinar hosting experience. So the first being the presentation screen. And as I mentioned, this is where your video feed will show up. So again, if I turn on my camera, hello, I show up here. And not only am I seeing myself here, but I'm seeing, but everybody else in the attendee section would be seeing me here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off. But again, any content here is going to display and be visible to your audience as well. So again, if we look here in the corner, if I upload a file that was nicely already pre-uploaded for me, again, if I have a slideshow or any content here, I can go through even the slides and they're going to change in real time for my audience. So moving on from the presentation section, let's go to the second part that both your attendees and you as the host can see. So this is the chat, people, poll, and Q&A section. And again, this is visible just the same as your presentation screen is to your audience. So chat, it's just a public chat where anyone can contribute. You can always make changes to that in your host control panel, which we'll get to in a second. But what's auto-selected at the start of the webinar is that it is going to be on. So anyone would be able to chat in the public chat. In the people section, you would be able to privately chat with one another in one-on-one private chats. If anyone was listed in my attendee or presenter or even admin section, in addition to myself, I would be able to privately chat with them. Finally, we have a poll and Q&A section. So as an admin, I can create a new poll. I could poll my audience, so ask a question like, why is the sky blue? Provide some answers and then poll the audience. And when I poll the audience, they get a pop-up on their screen, and then they also can see it in the poll section here. And then finally, we also have a Q&A section, and this is great for if you have a really chatty audience. So if you're using the chat and poll, and you're using the chat more as a communication stream, like, hey, hello, oh, greetings from Chicago, you know, things like that. You can really segment it out with the Q&A section, which is great for just questions only. And again, these are the two and only two sections that are visible to your attendees. Now let's draw our attention to the presenter and admin or full access controls of the room. So as a presenter, and I'm just going to show you quickly, we have 3 different levels of permissions in the room. So attendees really don't have any. They're listed here at the bottom. Presenters have this top portion here. They can share everything, you know, including their screen, files, videos, camera, microphone, but they don't have access to that host control panel. So presenter access is great for co-presenters or guest presenters, people who probably haven't been on the site before, and you really just don't want to overwhelm them with too much responsibility. And then finally, we have the admin control panel, and this is really reserved for admins or, you know, people on your team who are really comfortable with hosting on BigMarker, because as you'll see, we get a lot of controls and permissions here. So before we go to the host control panel, let's just quickly go through these again and make sure everyone understands what these controls mean. So the first is just mic only, kind of like what I'm doing right now. You don't see my face, you don't see any webcam, but you're just hearing my voice. Then we have webcam, as you saw before when my picture showed up here. I can broadcast my audio and video at the same time. Then we have share screen, and this is actually what I'm doing right now. So I'm sharing my screen with my mouse movement so people can see exactly what I'm doing. Sharing a file, that's what's uploaded right here. So something like a PDF or PowerPoint presentation. Again, a slideshow is great for this. You can click through your slides in real time and everyone is going to see that. You can also draw on that. So if you wanted to highlight some text maybe, you can do that. And then also video. And video you can either do in the form of YouTube videos or an MP4 video. And we highly recommend that if you are doing MP4 videos that you pre-upload it in the pre-upload section. So if I were to go ahead and play that YouTube video, it would show up in the room like this. The YouTube watermark would go away once I press play, and the audience would be able to hear everything. Obviously, since I'm wearing headphones today, you cannot hear it, but it looks and sounds great. So finally, getting back now to the host control panel, let's just go over this quickly to make sure everyone's on the same page and very comfortable with the host control panel. So the first is the audience permissions, and as you'll notice, we have 4 toggles turn to green and 2 toggles turn to gray. So the first 4, these are all on at the start of the webinar. So you'll want to make these changes early if you don't want them to, you know, have effect on the webinar. So the first is the show attendee list. If you don't want to have your attendees know who else is attending, meaning in the people section, they won't know who else is listed out here, I would recommend turning that off. This is a great tool if you want to make your webinar seem like it's a lot bigger than it actually is. You know, so if you say that you have 300 attendees in the room, but you really only have 3, your attendees would not know. The next is enable public chat. And as I was mentioning previously in the chat section, anyone can chat at any time unless you turn off the enable public chat. And if you turn it off, your attendees would not be able to chat, but you as the host would still be able to use the chat. Then we have the Q&A section. So if I wanted to turn off Q&A completely, I could just disable it, which would just remove it from this top banner here. But if I did want to keep it on and have people submit their questions to this Q&A section, but I didn't want other attendees to be able to see what other questions were being posted, I would just turn off this view Q&A, and then they wouldn't be able to see what other people are posting in the Q&A section. So again, these 4 are actually auto-toggled on at the start, and then we have 2 that are auto-toggled to off at the start. And the reason for this is that the attendee mic disabled and attendee camp list mic disabled, this, if I turn these on, would give anyone in my attendee list at any time the ability to share their microphone and camera. It essentially just turns on this mic icon here and this camera icon here at the top, and allows them to share at any time. So as you can imagine, it can get pretty hectic in there if you just let anyone share willy-nilly. So I actually recommend turning these off. And in the attendee section, everybody is going to be listed here below. And each person is going to be listed out similarly to how my name is listed out below here in the admin section, with some icons listed next to their name. And if you scroll over them, it will say something like enable this person's microphone or camera. And you can click that and it will just enable that single person's microphone or camera to allow them to share without giving entire access to your full attendee list. So I definitely recommend doing that over these unless you're doing a smaller meeting style webinar or any other web session. The final parts to the host control panel are the record function, which you can record at any time, but you'll want to start it at the beginning and stop it when you're ready to stop because you cannot pause in between. So it's just important to note that, you know, there's no pausing. You want to be able to start and stop at the part where you want to have the recording show. And then in your advanced settings, you can decide if you want to broadcast in HD. So if you have a strong internet connection, you know, we do recommend it. But if you aren't sure, you can always do a speed test. Go to speedof.me or speedtest.net are 2 really good ones. Test your speed. If you have speeds, especially your upload speed above 15 megabits per second, then HD sounds like a great option for you. But if you don't, you know, I'd turn it off. It's probably not going to make much of a difference if you don't have higher speeds. And then also we have hide all tweets. And something I forgot to mention in the chat is you can actually connect with Twitter just by adding a hashtag to your event. And if for whatever reason you wanted to hide those tweets at any time, you can click that and it will just make all of the tweets disappear in your chat. And then the final thing to cover today is the end webinar button here. This end event button here at the bottom, this is kind of your kill webinar button. So it's only important to end the webinar once everybody's kind of done with the event, you're done recording, so on and so forth, because what's going to happen is when you press end event, then it's going to not only end the event and close it down, but it's going to kick everyone out and not let them come back in. So it's just important to essentially remember to end your event once everything is done for the day. So I hope everything makes sense today. We covered a lot of ground. Really going back quickly to recap, we went through the host dashboard, learned about, you know, everything that you can do here. We went through the BigMarker channel. And then also we went through the actual live hosting experience. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at hannah.scherer@bigmarker.com. That's HANNAH.scherer, SCHERER, @bigmarker.com, and I would be happy to help. Or for more support related questions, you can email support@bigmarker.com and they would be happy to help you as well. So thank you again for attending today's session. Happy hosting, and please let me know if you have any questions at all. I would be happy to help.